Here's something that might surprise you. In a country often portrayed as hostile to Muslims, India has had three Muslim presidents and over 200 million Muslim citizens who are leaders in everything from nuclear science to Bollywood.
That's fascinating. It really challenges the narrative we often hear. What sparked your interest in this particular aspect of Indian society?
Well, I've been following how the Muslim Brotherhood has been trying to paint the recent India-Pakistan tensions as some kind of holy war between religions, but the reality on the ground tells such a different story. When you look at the data, you see Muslims integrated at every level of Indian society.
That's quite a contrast from the simplified narrative they're pushing. Could you give some specific examples?
Oh, absolutely. Take Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who served as India's president from 2002 to 2007. He wasn't just any president, he was literally known as the Missile Man of India because he developed their nuclear program. And get this, he was so beloved that his death in 2015 was mourned across all religious communities.
You know what's really interesting about that? It shows how someone can maintain their religious identity while also being celebrated as a national hero.
Exactly. And it's not just in politics. The military has had numerous high-ranking Muslim officers like Lieutenant General Zamir Uddin Shah, who served as Deputy Chief of Army Staff. In business, you've got Azim Premji, who built this massive tech empire and then became one of India's biggest philanthropists.
That reminds me, isn't Shah Rukh Khan like one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and he's Muslim too, right?
Oh man, Shah Rukh Khan is huge. We're talking about someone who's been called the king of Bollywood and has fans across the globe. And then there's A.R. Rahman, who's won Oscars for his music while being openly proud of both his Muslim faith and Indian identity.
So what do you think drives groups like the Muslim Brotherhood to push this conflict narrative when the reality seems so different?
Well, it's this classic strategy of trying to reduce complex situations to simple us versus them narratives. They are taking legitimate concerns about religious discrimination, which definitely exists, and turning them into this apocalyptic story that actually makes it harder to address real problems.
That must be incredibly frustrating for Indian Muslims who are trying to navigate both their religious and national identities.
Exactly. And here's what's really interesting. When you look at fields like science and medicine, you see this amazing history of collaboration. Dr. Salimuzzaman Siddiqui revolutionized pharmaceutical research, while Dr. Shihabuddin made crucial contributions to nuclear physics. These aren't just Muslim success stories, they're Indian success stories.
Well, that really shows how artificial these divisions can be when you're actually looking at people's lived experiences.
And you know what's particularly striking? In India's defense sector, probably the most sensitive area of any government, you have numerous Muslim scientists and military officers working on top secret projects. That completely undermines this narrative of Muslims being somehow separate or untrustworthy.
Though we should probably acknowledge that India, like any diverse society, does face real challenges with religious tensions.
Oh, absolutely, and that's crucial to understand. There are genuine issues with Hindu nationalism and instances of religious violence that need to be addressed. But there's a world of difference between acknowledging these problems and using them to paint this false picture of India as fundamentally anti-Muslim.
So what do you think would be a more constructive way to approach these issues?
I think we need to focus on supporting specific reforms while also celebrating the incredible achievements of Indian Muslims. Look at how someone like Yusuf Hamid used his position at Chipla to make life-saving medicines more accessible to millions of people. That's the kind of practical impact that transcends religious divisions.
That makes so much sense. It's about addressing specific issues rather than promoting this idea of fundamental incompatibility.
Right? And as we wrap up, I think the key takeaway is this. When outside groups try to impose simplified narratives on complex situations, they often end up making things worse. The real story of Muslims in India isn't some simple tale of oppression. It's this rich, complex narrative of challenge and triumph, of maintaining religious identity while fully participating in national life.
And perhaps that's the most powerful counter to extremist narratives: the actual lived experiences of millions of people who refuse to be reduced to pawns in someone else's ideological game.